confirm that this is an earlier draft and was shared with other participants at the roundtable?
We had many drafts of this document, Senator, so it wouldn't surprise me that this was an earlier one.
Right. I'd like to describe my observations about what has changed on the second page. It appears that a paragraph, a graph and a caption for the graph, which is roughly the size of the blank space in the final version and is about bushfire patterns in Australia, has been removed. And the material that's been removed, the text and the graph show, and I'll quote from it, consistent with predictions from more than a decade ago, this pattern has shifted with climate change. And the other piece that's been deleted is text that says there is a clear trend in recent decades towards a greater number of very high fire weather days in spring. Why was that removed?
Senator, as you can appreciate, in the preparation of any document, there's a lot of review, discussion, debate. That's the normal process within CSIRO, how we produce our ultimate science to make sure it's rigorous and robust. This document went through a similar process. The information that is in that version, some of that appears in the State of the Climate 2018, so it's actually out in the public record with similar statements to it. We came down to a view that it related to Victorian forest fire danger index or high danger index days, and we decided, do we want Victorian data, do we want Australian data? Given that it was already out in the public, we decided we won't use that in this particular one, but we do have text in the final version,
Senator,
which relates to that fire index data, which shows that same trend, or talks about that same trend.
Senator, Peter's right. So it's the text you've referred to comes straight out of the State of the Climate, but just refer you to the second paragraph on page 2. The impact of climate change has led to longer, more intense fire seasons and an increase in the average number of elevated fire weather days as measured by the Forest Fire Danger Index. Last year saw the highest annual accumulated FDI on record. The problem with that data, of course, Senator, is it's incredibly variable. It depends remarkably on location. We've seen parts of Australia where that's gone up. We've seen parts that have gone down. It varies dramatically from year to year, and that's essentially the difference between weather, which is very variable, and the underlying climate trend, which is actually quite clear.
And who made the decision to remove it, Mr. Marshall? You said we did.
So
Mayfield, my apologies.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. So there was a team of us producing the document. So I was leading that, and we went through and decided on what we wanted to include for the final read. So ultimately, it's my decision.
Can I ask, is there any reason you would have, the key information being that the bushfire season that we've had was somewhat predicted, and that's the information that's been removed? Why specifically has that information been removed? If you made that decision, what was the logic of removing it?
The logic. So a lot of changes made as we went through, but predominantly wanted to make sure that simple statements that had simple scientific background. There's a lot of data that sits behind that sort of statement. We felt that was more suited to a more scientific document.
I suppose the key idea that isn't reflected in the document is that there were predictions more than a decade ago about these circumstances. That wasn't considered relevant?
Senator, that's been broadly published over the decade that you talk about. It's in the State of the Climate. It's well and truly out there.
Yes, but not, it
in the
appears,
document,
universally accepted in Australia's political class. So I'm interested to understand why you chose to remove it from this public communications document.
Well, it's in the State of the Climate, as I said, which we published last year, and it is in this document, but it's in simple, easy to understand words, where we said the fire index has gone up consistently as a result of climate change, and last year we saw the highest accumulated one on record.
It's
so
the
it is in there,
prediction. It's
Senator.
the predictions from more than a decade ago phrase that I'm interested in particular, Mr.
Senator,
Marshall.
From my memory, there was work done in 2003, 2005 and 2007. And then also more recently, and all of that work has been published. It's in the public domain. It's in multiple versions of the State of the Climate. It's well and truly out there and well understood.
Okay. Well, can I have a look then in the draft on the first page and the third last dot point in that right-hand text box? The sentence of bracketed text says, the annual national mean maximum temperature was also the warmest on record at 2.09 degrees Celsius above average. That is scientifically accurate, isn't it?
Yes, that is accurate.
And why was that removed?
There was an assessment that the actual definition of that would be hard for some people to understand because it's the annual national mean maximum temperature. So you end up with quite a few different dimensions to take on board when you look at that. Whereas we thought the average temperature was a lot easier for people to understand. So we went to this one measurement to make it simple.
Yeah. Did you make that decision, Mr. Mayfield?
Yes, I led the group that was working through the editing process, so yes.